So what are equity shares? So first of all, just pause the video and read the definition, and then you will be better able to understand what I am trying to explain. So what this basically means is, an equity share is like a piece of paper that represents that you own a specific percentage of a company. If you own an equity share, that means you own a part of that company. You are basically a part owner of a company. Like two friends start a company and own 50% each. Then if some other person wants to invest money and comes into the company, then now there will be three partners. Similarly, all the shareholders are partners in a firm or a company. So for example, there is a company which has a total of 100 shares, and if I own one share of that company, that means I own 1% of that company. And by owning 1%, I am entitled to get 1% of the profits of that company. And of course, assuming that the management distributes all of the profits. And being a shareholder, I have some voting rights. And voting rights basically means that if there's a company, then company management has to do a lot of things or engage in different activities to keep the company running, make it profitable, and also grow the company. And management does all the activities on their own. But for some particular or specific activities, the companies have to ask permission for shareholders to further initiate the task. It's kind of like a situation where a kid is asking for a candy from his mother or father. A kid can do various things, but for some things he just have to ask his parents. So similarly, the management has to ask shareholders before taking some specific actions. And these activities can be, for example, a company wants to expand its operations, and for doing that they need a lot of money, which they are thinking of acquiring through debt instruments. So in this case, management makes a proposal in front of shareholders asking for whether they can raise money through debt instruments or not. And here comes the voting power of shareholders. Shareholders have a say in the proposal. They can say yes or no. I mean, it depends on each shareholder whether they like it or not. So the power to vote in favor of or against the proposal is basically the voting right of a shareholder. And now coming to the risk part, a shareholder has the risk of losing money because if you own a part of a company, then it can be profitable or it can lose money. But you always have the risk. When a company is losing money, then obviously nobody wants to invest in that company, which can lead to share price crashing. And as you own a share, then you will be bearing a loss on the purchase price. And another loss is that the company can go bankrupt. When situations gets worse, in which case you can lose money, you can lose all the money. That means the shares can prove to be no more than the bunch of worthless papers. So you always have the risk of losing money when you are buying a share. But the positive news is your risk is limited. That means, unlike in other business ventures, you have a limited amount of risk. You can lose a maximum of what you have invested in the company and not a penny more than that. So if you bought 100 shares in a company when the share price was $50, then the maximum risk will be 100 into 50. That would be $5,000, which is the amount you had invested in the company. Now, if the company has enormous debt and not in a position to pay its debt, or it's reporting losses every other quarter and goes bankrupt, then still your maximum risk is $5,000. And that is the positive news. So in a nutshell, equity share is something that represents a part ownership of a company that gives you the voting rights and also has some substantial risk. And that was all about an equity share.